There is exactly one player on our trade board that has played for the Colorado Avalanche before. It's Ryan O'Reilly on the trade deadline frenzy. Makes sense for the Avs for a whole lot of reasons, not least he's a real bona fide center that can do things like win faceoffs and be reliable defensively, but also because he potentially solves the center spot for multiple years with 2 additional years left on his deal at a fairly reasonable price if he can avoid the aging curve at $4.5 million. Is O'Reilly the perfect fit for the Avs at this deadline?
I think the more we get into seeing exactly what this Avalanche team is, and just as importantly what it isn't, O'Reilly he looks more and more like exactly what they need. The only other guy that I feel like is such a perfect fit for their specific needs is Sam Bennett, just because he's crazy. But with O'Reilly, you're talking not as crazy. Rudo, you called him cerebral.
Yeah.
In the Sam Bennett video. Cerebral, but he's still so effective and he's so good defensively. The skating stuff is still not good. It's not been good his entire career. It hasn't stopped him from being a great number one center in his career. Slotting in at 2C would change his role quite a bit. He would be the hard match for top lines. He would be just kind of their eraser, but he's good enough offensively that he could continue to contribute, and he's excellent at faceoffs. He's excellent on the PK. Like, he's a fringe Selke kind of guy. And when he was a free agent and he signed in Nashville, the conversation about the Avs signing him was, well, this aging curve is scary. He wasn't very good in Toronto at the end of that. What's going to happen? And all he's done is continue to be very good for the last 2 years. And for me, I'm just saying, I don't care. I'll take the chance. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Put this guy behind it. You don't have good defensive centers as it is. Jack Drury's okay. Casey Middlestad's bad. Nathan McKinnon's bad. And your fourth line center is a wing. So you don't care about your fourth line center nearly as much if you have Ryan O'Reilly there and Jack Drury down the middle to do a lot of that dirty work and to do the face-off things and to be the PK guys. O'Reilly then becomes kind of your ace in the hole in a playoff series and changes the complexion of every matchup that you have. And I just don't, at this point, I'm like, not Noah Dobson level irresponsible, but whatever it takes from a reasonable standpoint, I'd be doing to get O'Reilly.
All right, I'm going to be irresponsible on this one. This is where I get irresponsible. Do whatever you need to do it, because Ryan is he knows how to take care of himself physically. He very well in tune with his body and all that kind of stuff. So it's he's going to be more than fine. Former cons. You talk about you just said best defensive forward trophy there. At the end of the day, he's also a former Conn Smythe Trophy winner. You know what I mean? And this is, for me, big. He's a perfect fit for where the Avs are at, for all the reasons you just said. I won't say them again. It's the same thing. Comfortable in the surroundings because he was here for so many years. I have a soft spot for him. I always have. Yes. I just think that this is where, like you said, you get irresponsible with Dobson. I get irresponsible here for Ryan because, there's such a need there, and it just solidifies down the middle so much. You know what I mean? And that is such a pipe dream, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because I feel that there's such a need for the Avs. He checks so many boxes. You know what I mean? And I think that if you end up doing this, then he's got 2 more years, and the contract's not a big issue. What is he, 4?
Fine price, 4.5.
It's not a big deal.
4.5 is nothing.
Yeah, and does he want to get moved? And at the end of the day, I think he's earned that right too. And if he wants to get moved, it's a yes to Barry Trotz, and I'll do whatever it takes, and then he gets moved. You know what I mean? So I'm not worried about it. On that sense. No, all of a sudden you get some phone calls saying, "Hey, the Avalanche want you to come." I think I think it's a serious conversation. You know what I mean? About okay, what does this mean? You know what I mean? Because I think you'd be listening with big ears and really in tune to listening to what's the pitch here.
On the one hand, he's pretty much an automatic 20-goal scorer. So he helps the Avs on that side in their depth and actually putting the puck in the back of the net. On the other hand, are you kidding me? Nichushkin, O'Reilly, Lehkonen as a shutdown. On paper, that's one of the best defensive forward lines in the league. And what really sells me on that is we know Jared Bednar loves his safety blankets. All of a sudden, your second line is your safety blanket now. That's Bednar can roll that thing over the boards 20 minutes a night and not worry about it.
A safety blanket that can actually score and not Copper or Gabriel Bork or all the other Yoel Kiviranta, all the other warm blankies that he's cuddled up to over the years. That's a safety blanket that he could not frustrate us by utilizing.
Exactly. So I really do think it makes all the sense in the world, at least from the Avs perspective, to be targeting heavily on Ryan O'Reilly. Again, we have to wait and see what actually happens. O'Reilly has to want to do it. Nashville has to want to do it, and the price has to be humanly achievable for the Avs. But there's a lot of sense here.
I do want to ask, because I know this is always a conversation that pops up when we mention Ryan O'Reilly, but the relationship between him and the organization. Has enough of the organization turned over since he got traded to Buffalo that a lot of this should just be water under the bridge at this point? Or is it still, there's still going to be some hard conversations of getting over some raw feelings?
No, I think it's past. I think it's past. Time heals everything. Obviously I was there when those things happened, and I think time heals everything. I think you have to look at it more as, what are you getting? You're getting a wonderful human being on top of everything we just talked about. Things are done when you're young, you're negotiating, you're doing whatever it is. And I'm sure on our side of things, it wasn't handled well as well. You know what I mean? So again, somewhere, somehow, I think you put a little bit of, what do you want, olive branch or whatever it is that you're talking about. I don't see that there's just something very big there. This is not Patty Waugh leaving the Montreal Canadiens, after going behind the bench and, took years before, a big rupture. This was more like, tough contract negotiations, tough, knowing where you fit within the team and opposition thinking differently, and not opposition, but management thinking differently. And then, they moved on from him, and then moved on to Buffalo. And then, that's a great question. And my answer would be no.
Okay.
If you can get over the hurdles, it makes a ton of sense. But we have two players higher on our trade board list than O'Reilly still to get to. Two more centers. Maybe they're the right answer. Find out in the next one.